This is Rude Tudors, hosted by English Renaissance expert Liz Rodriguez and nerdy laywoman Nicole Keating. Join our raunchy jaunt through the historical and the hysterical as we explore the weirdness of the past and its presence in the present. Horses. Were you one of those little girls who loved horses?
This is weird. I came to horses a little later. I went to horseback riding camp when I was 12.
No.
And I fucking love riding horses.
Okay.
I love it. So I never had, a lot of, I did like My Little Ponies. So I did have a lot of those.
Well, you still do.
I still am into My Little Pony.
I was into those too. I was never really into them, and I remember some of my friends as a kid being into them, and I always thought it was kind of weird and prissy to be too into horses, especially if you didn't have a horse.
Yeah.
I know there are people out there who grew up with horses, who had friends who had horses. We weren't those people.
No.
So it always seemed strange to me when when little girls would be really into horses. I'm going to read all of these stupid Saddle Club mysteries.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I never got into. Because again, I've always liked high fantasy and stuff, which always includes a lot of riding, and if you like elven shit, they're always riding horses. They're supposed to be expert riders, very, very skilled. And so I was into them insofar as they factor into a fantasy universe. But it wasn't really until I was actually this is what horseback riding is. This is fun as hell. That I actually was okay, no, I'm into horses now. This is a thing. Though I still do collect My Little Ponies. Maybe I'm more into horses than I thought.
I think My Little Pony is different. That's a whole other conversation. My Little Pony is different.
Because I was going to say, I do have a lot of things with horses, little horses and ponies on them.
Yeah,
I'm having an identity crisis right now.
Horse identity crisis.
I think I might be more into horses than I originally suspected.
This is something that you're really going to have to search yourself about.
Search deep into my soul.
And I think one of the ways we're going to do that is historically.
Yes.
Start thinking about horses. So that's our topic for today.
Horses.
Horse sexuality, more specifically. Horses during the Renaissance, as you might imagine, kind of important, right? Mm-hmm. You need a horse to get around, to do your plowing, all of that. So there's this guy, Edward Topsell. So he lived 1572 to 1625, and he was a minor church cleric, moved around a little bit, wasn't that important or known for any of that, even though he wrote and published sermons. Now, what he was known for were his bestiaries. So these books of all of these exotic animals, like encyclopedias of animals. So his really big one, The History of Four-Footed Beasts, published in 1607, is where I get a lot of this stuff today. Now, the thing that was weird, or not weird about Topsell, it was actually very much of a keeping with his time, is it's not like he went out to all the four corners of the world looking for these animals to write about in his encyclopedia. He was basically just collecting everything that was out there about these animals, all of the stuff from the ancient Romans and the Greeks, and he would compile them.
So not first-hand experience.
Not first-hand. So things get a little bit skewed.
A little weird.
Things get a little weird. Imagine. So he describes all manner of horses in this history of four-footed beasts, like horses, like cats, dogs, but also things like manticores and hippogriffs, unicorns.
He wasn't collecting stories. He was actually a wizard, and he could see all of these things walking around. Minor church cleric, a.k.a. minor wizard.
He was a minor wizard. Well, maybe minor church, but major wizard.
Major wizard. So minor cleric,
Edward Topsell
is my classic rock album.
Minor cleric, major
wizard.
I'm writing in the key of major wizard. I don't know anything about music. Okay, so he's writing about all of these animals, and that's where a lot of just lay people, that's where they would have gotten their information about animals. Now, it's one thing when you're getting your information about a manticore from this book, because you have nothing with which to compare.
Right. There's no reality.
There's no reality. So you would think that when it comes to the section on horses, we would get pretty much how horses act, right? They're everywhere. Not so much. Things still get a little weird. And in all of the pages, there are a number of different horses, wild horses, domesticated, breeding horses, probably 20, 30 pages just on horses. There's still some weirdness in there.
Okay.
So let's get down to some of that. So
I'm so excited about this.
How do you choose how do you choose a good horse? What would you look for if you were out buying a horse? Say you go on Craigslist right now. You probably could find.
You probably could find a horse on Craigslist. I'm sure you could. You probably want it to be like
what would you put in your Craigslist ad?
To
sell your horse,
or to sell my horse.
To seek
good temperament.
Good temperament.
Not like busted up, not janky in any way. As far as like
these are technical breeders' terms.
Well, yes, janky, busted up, jacked up. You don't want any like jacked up teeth. You don't want like injuries, things affecting it, no diseases, health, general health, age, things like that.
Well, Topsell has a few recommendations.
Oh.
More specifically about how to figure out if your horse, how to choose a good horse for breeding, because that's something that you're going to need to do sometimes. Not just have a horse for riding, but to breed with your mares.
You didn't tell me it was a horse seeking men section. I would have changed my ass.
M4H, man for horse.
Man for horse.
Okay, so let's get a little bit more specific. If you're looking for a horse that you want to breed. Not you personally breed with, but to breed with.
To breed with another.
That's a whole other.
To breed with another horse. I understand. I see. Okay.
Because that's a whole other set of specifications.
Okay. So I'm not gonna say like big junk.
Well, I think that's kind of par.
That's
for the
par
horse.
for the horse.
Par for the horse.
Oh, rim shot. Yeah. We gotta get one of those guys to just play
like the morning zoo guys.
Yeah.
So, what makes a good breeding horse?
I would say the
particularly stallion.
Oh, stallion.
Yeah.
Oh, athleticism probably. Still pretty good. I would say you want a good temperament because you're going to have to be spending a lot of time with this horse.
You think so? But what does good mean? Like docile or aggressive? Because
probably for stallions, aggressive. You probably want them to be a little.
You want a little bit of a bad boy.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's what lady horses wanted.
Really?
I don't know.
I mean, it still seems to be what human lady horses want nowadays.
Lady horses want. Topsell makes some recommendations for how to choose a good horse. And this is a particular experiment. What you should do is, and I'm quoting here from his History of Four-Footed Beasts, if you will make trial of your stallion, whether he be fit for procreation, Hipparchus teacheth you this experiment. Press the genital member with your 2 fingers, and with locks of wool draw out his seed, which being so drawn out, if it cleave and hang together, so it will not be cut nor easily parted, it is a demonstration of a good stallion. But if it hang not together like birdlime, but go easily asunder like milk or whey, such a horse is not to be admitted to cover your mares. You look shocked.
Oh, I'm grossed out.
What's gross?
You just semen.
Yeah.
That's pretty gross. I don't like.
So let's just first let's parse this a little bit. What exactly is this experiment? So you want to see if your male horse is good to procreate. Like should I stud this guy out?
Yeah.
So what you do is
you basically give it like a really bad hand job.
2 fingers.
2 fingers. Only 2. Yeah, 2 fingers.
Do you think it's like thumb and?
I think it's probably like around like
you make the okay sign.
Yeah, like you make the okay sign.
It's kind of like Cosmo says. You do the same thing.
Yeah. I think this is from. Are you sure he doesn't write for Cosmo? Are you sure you got your source right? But and locks of wool, so I guess you've lined your hand with like.
See, I wasn't sure what to make of that.
I think it probably
with locks. I thought he was using it as like a splatter guard.
Oh, like a cover.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but I'm not sure. I like the wool lined circle.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking. You're protecting your hand, but also making it not like a terrible hand job for this horse because there's some sort of softness. It's not just like abrasive hand.
You've got to be humane about it.
Yeah, you've got to be humane about it. And then
humane about it. Oh God, it's gonna happen this whole episode now.
And then you check its semen for the quality of it. Some of it I just...
So the good quality means that it sticks together like bird lime. I mean...
I don't know what bird lime is.
So bird lime is this... It gets evoked a lot in Renaissance literature. It's sticky stuff. I don't know exactly what it's made out of, but it's sticky stuff they would put on tree limbs so that when a bird landed on it, they would get stuck, and then you could just... Steal them birds. So it should be sticky and cling together like bird lime. I imagine like kind of like a loogie, right?
Yeah, I think that's what they want.
They want the loogie,
very
not
viscous,
not like liquidy.
Yeah,
like you should be able to like
it should be thick.
And like slap it down, and it would make a satisfying plop. It would all stay together.
You don't want it to sound like you just turned on a dribbly hose.
No. What do you think it means? What do you think this indicates?
I don't know. Like, for the horses?
Yeah, for the horse. I think it's virility. Like, if you've got sticky stuff.
You want it to... It's like weak versus strong. It's like strength, stamina, aggressiveness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coagulation. Mm-hmm. Coagulation's important. So we're, a little bit grossed out by this. I wonder, though, how grossed out people would have been, because it's like... animal husbandry. That's what you gotta do.
I don't think as grossed out. I mean, you even see things now like where you can see videos on the internet of people getting dogs off for like breeding purposes.
That's how you make them trust you better.
And it's I can't watch it because I think it's weird and gross. And also my dog is like my child, so I can't.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of thinking on Topsell's part about all manner of horse reproduction. So that was his little nugget, little usable bit of advice, his Heloise's hint about male horses and mating male horses. Now, female horses, they're a little bit loosey-goosey, or they're a little bit more temperamental. You can't just like reach under there and figure things out. So, according to Topsell, lady horses, mares, quite horny.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know exactly how they got that kind of a reputation. Kind of like rabbits today.
Yeah.
Right? Probably because there are a lot of babies. But where did Topsell get this lady horses are quite horny? Well, again, he's going back to the myths. He's going back to all of this ancient wisdom that has been passed down to him. So he actually goes into some detail about how lady horse reproduction works. So they have a 60-day lust period, he says. A 60-day lust period.
All right.
And he also has kind of, again, going to Cosmo, kind of a Cosmo tips to tell if your female horse is horny. And he's got a whole list. What do you think might indicate a horny horse?
Oh, man, I don't know. Do I know enough about...
Like they rear up?
Yeah, they probably get all feisty.
Yeah.
I know that there's a girl dog who lives down the street who is not fixed because she's like a beautiful Afghan hound. Mm-hmm. And I know that when she's quote unquote in heat, she's very like extra, she gets a little bit extra defiant, like rebellious, like she won't listen to the person who's walking her.
She's a grown woman. Yeah. She could do what she wants with her body.
So a little bit of feistiness, a little bit of...
And that's generally what's going on with these female horses. So here's some tips to tell if your horse is in heat. Your lady horse. 1, they don't allow people around. They just want to be loose. They want to be with other horses. They don't, they make water more often. Quote, make water. So they just, I guess they're just like flushing it out. Like I'm getting my scent out, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, probably. Getting my scent out. Visiting all the clubs. Making sure everybody's seeing your face.
Yep.
And if not, they're going to find your smell afterwards.
Yes, they will. But then you also, when you go to the club, you don't go alone. You gotta go with your ladies.
You gotta go with your ladies.
So that's what you do
They move together?
They congregate.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. They congregate.
That's hilarious.
With other mares and, quote, seem to rejoice at her society, lifting up the tail, changing of the voice. So they, get together. I imagine them...
talking up here. They're talking up there. They're getting their girl stuff on. They put their purses in the middle of their shoes and just dance around in a circle.
Yep, just showing off, talking about... who's in the club, who's cute, who's got a nice haircut, mane cut, all of that. Oh, and Topsell has all sorts of advice about how to cut the mane. Lots of hair cutting advice.
Lots of hair cutting advice.
And he describes one cut, and I couldn't quite imagine it, but I think what he describes is, the mane, if you cut it really short, but then cut little dugouts into it, you can make it like a castle.
Little castle wall.
Like the top of a castle.
I've seen that, actually, in, now horses.
Yeah. Not even at the Renaissance fair.
No.
So he was into that. But back to the female horses. So they congregate together, they talk to each other, and they use their high voices.
They use their girl voices.
But also, and this part maybe you can help me figure out, because I can't quite understand. So when they're with their female horses, with their fellow female horses, there's a sending forth, and I quote, sending forth of her secrets, a certain thin humor, somewhat like the seed of a horse. Yeah.
She's getting wet.
She's getting wet. And
yeah. That's what they mean, right?
Thanks for spelling that out. Well, at first, I was reading, I was like, oh, she gets with her fellow female horses and they talk and sending forth of secrets. And I thought, oh, that is so cute. They're talking about who they have crushes on, their secrets. And I think it's actually more like her secretes.
Oh,
it's spelled like secretes.
Yes.
And they get all juiced up. Mm-hmm. And that's how you know that your lady horse.
Your lady horse is horny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's where, we're in the animal realm right now, and we have to wonder, when they're talking about female horses, to what extent are they just talking about horses?
Yeah, it already seems a little coded towards humans as well. There seems to be a little bit of something's crossed there.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because he goes on to say, quote, among all the females of the world, and I love how he says females, like, I don't know, like Lil Wayne does. Like all the females.
Sir Mix-a-Lot says it.
He does.
When it comes to females, Cosmo ain't got nothing to do with my selection.
Mm-mm. So among all the females of the world, there is none beside a woman that is more greedy of procreation than a mare, because they want a monstrous purgation, and yet eat abundance of meat, setting down their unlimitable rage, which carrieth them over mountains and rivers in the time of this fury.
Whoa.
Yeah, they're enraged. They're furious to fuck. All these females of the world, horses, are the only ones who are hornier than women, is my takeaway from this.
Yeah.
And they're enraged.
And they're really enraged.
And they're furious.
It's like, this is how bad horses are, but women are just under there. Women are just right there. Luckily, they've got those periods to flush out all the bad feelings. Yeah. Luckily. Oh, thank God for that.
Well, think about if they didn't, though, because he says that because these mares are so enraged that they, like, cross mountains and helps them pull their burdens. So, if women didn't have their periods, you could probably just strap her up to the plow and have her right next to the horse.
They're talking about their secrets.
Yes, and their secretes.
Yep.
So how horses procreate, how they get pregnant, is something that Topsell just can't stop talking about. And so this is where it gets really mythological and really weird, and I'm sure he didn't see this. Sure he didn't see that, quote, there be mares which rage so far in lust that by their ardent desire of copulation they conceive by the southwest wind without the company of a horse. Didn't happen. But how do you think, if it did happen, how would a horse have sex with the wind? With the southwest wind? Because I think it makes a difference.
Yeah, the southwest wind. The horses run away. Like, they're all, like, cuckoo. And they just, like, roam, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe get pregnant from a horse that you don't know is there, and then come back with the southwest wind, and suddenly they're pregnant, and they're like, well, must have been the wind that done did it.
Must have been the wind. Must have been the wind. Well,
it's not the wind. It's not the calls are coming from inside the house.
Yes.
Your horse got pregnant by another horse.
Well, Topsell thinks that he knows how the wind lays down his game.
Oh, yeah?
Or actually, it's more the mares being instrumental. So, and it is the property of these mares, he says, by kicking against the wind with their hinder legs, to open their own womb and to receive in that delectable air, wherewithal they are satisfied. So they, like, open up their parts. They, like, kick their legs up. I
bet that feels good to them.
To air it out.
Yeah, like, because that movement seems familiar. Like, that's a thing that horses do. They kick their back legs up. It probably feels real good.
But it would have to happen really fast to be, like, kick, impregnated, unless they, like, kick up against a tree. Well, at any rate, they find a way to open up the womb.
Yeah.
And that's something that you've got to be really careful about during the Renaissance, not just as a horse, but as a woman. Like, you have so many openings that need to be guarded against.
Yes, you do.
Not just from the wind.
Yeah, you don't want to just open your legs and bend over and shake your butt a little.
No.
No, you do not. You don't want to kick up against no wind. You don't want to, yeah.
Mm-mm. And they would get pregnant from this, says Topsell. But here's the sad part. The foals would die before age 3. So it's like the wind seed was not enough to sustain a viable foal. What's interesting is that these wind horses are described in Spain and Portugal, like not being in England. And maybe that's how Topsell gets around how incredible all of this stuff is. Well, they don't do it here in England.
Not here. Like, I've never seen this personally, but a guy I know, a friend of his, told me that he went to Spain last summer and talked to a guy that said he knew a guy whose horse got impregnated by the wind.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen here, though.
Yeah.
We're safe here.
So there's kind of this lasciviousness or this just like loosey-goosey, I can get impregnated by sneezing, sexuality that's associated with other places. Not in England, though. And, that just tends to be the case. A lot of times when you see deviant sexuality happening in the literature of the Renaissance,
it's always
like,
well,
not here. It's in the Middle East. It's in Africa. Spain and Portugal, not as racist as they could have been.
Yeah.
They're enemies. So one thing about horses, though, is you would think if they get pregnant so easily, they're so willing to be jerked off with a woolen glove by humans, that they would be pretty much down for whatever. Au contraire, says Topsell. So he tells yet another story reported by the ancient Greeks about how the king of Scythia, there's this myth about the king of Scythia who had all of his horses die of disease. So his horse handler, there were 2 left, actually.
Okay.
There was a mama horse and her baby horse. But he wasn't a baby. He was all grown up.
Yeah.
So mama and a man. He had become a man. And the horse keeper's like, well, this is all we've got left. Let's see if we can get them together. And the mom and the son would not do it. They said... They probably thought in their little horse brains, that's disgusting. So then what he does is he's got a scheme.
Uh-oh.
And he, quote, covered the mare with artificial skins and likewise dressed the horse in such a manner as one could not know the other, whereupon being brought together, the stallion covered his own mother. I mean, they're horses.
I know they're horses.
But here's the...
what I don't like is the part about covering them with other skins.
The trickery. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, do you think,
I think, the skins of, the dead horses.
He did, a Buffalo Bill.
Yeah.
Carved
skin suit.
Made horse skin suits. Who knows why he had these just lying around.
You got a lot of horses around. They die all the time.
No, I think he has some other reasons for having these skin suits, these horse skin suits. The king of Scythia's horse keeper was a freak.
Yes.
Is one thing I'm getting from this.
Is the theme of the story.
But he didn't just stop there. Then, right after they're done doing it, he takes off their skin mask and is like, ha-ha!
That is so funny. It's like the end of a Scooby-Doo episode.
And he would have gotten away from it.
Well, my mom! It was me all along! Me!
Son! Yeah. Why would you do something like that if you knew that the horses...
If they knew that they didn't like it.
Because if they successfully procreated, right? They boned down. Why do you need to mess with them psychologically?
That's awful.
That's just that's some Saw stuff. That's messed up.
That's literally just he was thinking in the moment oh man, I wonder what would happen if I did this. I'm gonna do it.
Yoink.
It wasn't part of the experiment. It wasn't part of his written up procedure. He just
in his equestrian book, once you have successfully mated mother with son,
he didn't.
The costumes.
Yeah, he did not have that instruction. So he was just like,
Do you think he could have put on Groucho Marx glasses and a mustache? Over the boy horse,
a
wig,
and a wig, a bad wig. I hope that's what it was,
a Cher wig.
And the mom was wearing weird lipstick and an '80s windbreaker, and another bad wig,
which did something for her son. Apparently,
obviously.
This unfortunately does not have a happy ending. The mother and son did not take this big reveal well.
Of course,
no. So, quote, whereupon they took no other revenge upon themselves, but ran to the top of a high rock, and there successfully threw down themselves, one after another, so ending their miserable days, and preventing their master's hopes, to teach all mankind that they ought not to seek to thrive by sins against nature.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Poor horses.
Poor horses.
Aww.
So they're an object lesson for these humans. So it's not even really about you shouldn't mate horses with their kin.
Yeah.
It's you shouldn't profit off of coercing other people into these sinful, not people, but horses. But you shouldn't profit from crimes against nature, because that's kind of what this is.
Yeah.
And there's disagreement, even within Topsell's book itself, over whether or not animals are into incest, whether they're okay with it. And he quotes Ovid, and Ovid writes a lot about how it's not really a sin. It is for humans, but for animals,
Yeah, but I guess, it's one of those things where it's like, horses, I think, are supposed to be quite intelligent, just like dolphins. Yeah. And there's certain things that might not be understood or innate to all animals, but certain animals, like, again, dolphins, horses, things with high enough intelligence,
right,
where they actually have those social and familial relationships, where it is very much like, nope, don't do it.
Yeah. They're bonded to each other in a way that you don't see with other animals.
In a way that's more similar to a human's understanding of, like, family and things like that.
Right. When I was maybe 9 or 10, I got a Chinese hamster. It's probably not known as a Chinese hamster anymore because it sounds kind of racist.
Yeah, it does.
You know those little gray hamsters with the white bellies?
Uh-huh.
Got one. Wanted a hamster for so long. Victoria was her name. I got one. And within a week or two, and we specifically asked at the pet store, is this one pregnant? Because it was a girl. And they said, no. And she was.
She was?
And she
my God.
She crapped out a bunch of cute little hairless hamsters. And then, it was the first time we had ever owned hamsters. We didn't know quite we didn't quite know what to do with them. So some of them stuck around, some of them she ate, some of them grew up. And then we had to put them in this bigger box and then figure out, like, what are we going to do with these hamsters? And then they doubled again because the brothers and sisters started going at it. And then they started having babies.
Oh, my God.
And some
like
of them...
tribbles.
Yeah, some of them would kill them and they would bury them underneath all the litter. And we just could not get rid of these hamsters fast enough.
Oh, my God.
This was, over this, 2 weeks. We were trying to deal with this. And they're just, multiplying and eating and having sex with their siblings.
Crazy. It really is like tribbles on Star Trek.
Yeah.
Tribbles are these little round puffs. They're just little round balls of fur, but they multiply like rapid fire.
Or like gremlins, right?
Yeah, but they're not inherently,
they're not sentient.
Yeah, not really. No, they're more...
You can't buy them in Chinatown.
No, somebody gets one for a pet and then they just keep multiplying.
Big mistake.
And they're sort of cute and they make little cute sounds and they're not sort of inherently evil. There's just a ton of them. And so the ship just gets filled with them.
The Mogwai aren't inherently evil, Nicole, and I'm actually really offended that you would say something like that.
Sorry.
Okay. We'll pretend that didn't happen.
Oh my God.
So what's the takeaway here?
So, back to horses.
Here's what I think. I can give you a few, you can give me what you think. I think that there's something interesting about the fact that these Renaissance folks, whether consciously or unconsciously, are drawing comparisons between horses and humans
people.
In a way that slips into each other so easily. When we think we're talking about horses, we're talking about humans, and sometimes vice versa.
Yeah, that they're, especially in something like this. I'm curious to know, to explore whether it's a subconscious thing, because in some places it seems very purposeful. In some places it seems like this is something I've noticed and something we can all relate to because we know exactly what this is as people. But I think that there are other places, I think particularly in the gender talk, like this is what you do for male horses, this is what you do for female horses, where it seems very much like their understanding of what the animal is doing is very much rooted in their understanding of human gender and sexuality, or their perceptions they're appertaining unto.
Yeah. Ooh, fancy.
But yeah, I feel like those are the more subconscious areas.
And that's the part that's so interesting, because you see how when Topsell describes the male horses, it's all about the male horse. But then when he moves into talking about the female horse's reproductive steps, he goes immediately to the first thing at hand, I think, in his mind when it comes to controlling certain things in your household. That would be your wife, your woman. So there seems to be these are both creatures who need to be understood and controlled in a particular way that you need a book for.
And he starts using words like lust, which doesn't seem to come into play when he's talking about the male horses.
Yeah, that's
when he's talking about the male horses, it's very much about like how do you know the horse is ready to breed?
And is he a good physical specimen?
Yeah,
because he goes. Yeah. There are
pages.
Is
his body cool? Like, is his body cool? Is he healthy?
And colors were so important. Like, how do you get a dappled horse as opposed to lots of stuff? So it's about like the horse qua horse instead of how to control these lusty ladies.
And standing in it's the women in groups, the groups of horses where I'm like, there has to be something going on subconsciously that you even registered that as a like, oh look, they're all standing together and sharing their secrets or
secretes.
Yeah, secretes. I almost said secrets.
like those things, those throat lozenges.
Yeah.
Secrets. Yeah. I think this is a theme that we're going to keep returning to over time, over the next couple of months, is nature and the human and what the relationship between those two is, and what is a moral code that applies to humans. What happens to that moral code when we start applying it to animals, or vice versa? Because we have, and we'll see, examples where animals are doing it better than humans are. So this relationship between the human and the animal, between society and nature, these dichotomies that are so easily thought of in pairs, how they start to, get complicated, break down, all of that good stuff. Horses.
Oh, I do have a funny horse story.
Ooh, tell a funny horse story.
So my mom, like I said, one of those little girls who was obsessed with horses. She read all of the books. This
like Black Beauty and stuff like that.
Yeah, she read all those. They didn't have whatever Saddlebags Club. What was it called?
I think it's just the Saddle Club.
Saddle Club?
Saddlebags Club. That's for the aged women.
I thought there was another syllable.
Golden Saddle? Maybe I'm thinking of Golden Corral.
It's Golden Corral. Maybe just Saddle Club. But obviously those weren't a thing. But any book about dogs or horses, she would always read. And so she's always been obsessed with horses, and now she actually has a horse down at her friend's place downstate.
What's her horse's name?
Does she have Sierra? Sierra is her horse's name.
After the mist.
After the mist, yes. No, after the Sierra, this beat is automatic, supersonic, hypnotic, funky, fresh.
That's your mom's song.
Yes,
that's
that
your
is. So she decided that she was going to start making horsehair jewelry. And when you make
For real?
Yeah, for real.
Okay.
So when you make horsehair jewelry, all you have to do is just as you're brushing their mane, like cats, stuff comes out. Hair comes out.
Like when we finally make wigs out of each other's hair.
Exactly.
We're saving up each other's hair.
Oh, yes.
When we go full Grey Garden.
We have to save our hair and craft wigs. Similar to how people make felted cat hair trinkets on Etsy.
That's what I was going to bring up. Because people, you've seen my gorgeous cat, Henry. Orange, beautiful plumage. People have been telling me to save his fur to do crafts with. And it's just kind of
that seems
gross
weird
to me.
And gross.
Because I already have eschewed the cat lady dimension that people try to foist upon me and my personality. I only have two. Once I start wearing my cat, that is a threshold.
Yeah, you can't start knitting it into sweaters. That's another Buffalo Bill horse skins thing that I just don't. I don't think that's safe to dip into.
I'm gonna end up on My Strange Addiction, like that girl who ate cat hair and groomed her cat.
Her cat with her tongue.
So your mom's making horsehair jewelry.
Similar to that, you can make horsehair jewelry. So you just save the hair from the brushes, and you wash it, and then you dry it, and you braid it into jewelry. And you use a little bit of oil while you're braiding it, so it stays together and doesn't get all frizzy and split endsy.
You put some John Frieda in it. You put
some John Frieda, some sheer blonde, sheer horse into it, and braid it. And then you can do there's a whole bunch of different stuff you can do, like that Klutz Press friendship bracelets
that you buy for $20.
Yeah, and so you can do all sorts of stuff with the horsehair. But so one day, I didn't know any of this, and one day I came home from college, and there were buckets of long brown hair sitting in water all around her home. Oh my God. It looked like she had killed people.
There were heads in there.
Awful. It did look like there were heads in there.
I can't believe I've never heard this story before. That is so funny.
Crazy. I forget about it sometimes.
Well, you blocked it out because it was so dramatic.
And I was like, she's like, oh, that's from Sierra.
How is Sierra? Where is she?
Where is she?
She's everywhere.
She's everywhere. Yes, my mom used every part of the horse.
Every part. And then you looked at your Jell-O and suddenly stopped eating.
Yeah.
Well, that's disgusting. Did she ever finish the jewelry?
Of course not.
No. Well, she needs to finish it and put it up on Etsy. Or put the half-finished stuff on Etsy, because no one wants to do a whole craft. Like, I have all of these funny needle points sitting in the closet.
She should just make the Klutz press book with, and just put the horsehair would come with.
She's just dealing in raw materials. No, I think there's probably a market, though, for half-finished crafts. Because I think a lot of dilettantes like me, when it comes to artsy things, like with your hands artsy things, I start it but can't finish it. And I know there are lots of people, I would buy something half finished.
Because then you would use all your energy to finish it.
To finish it myself. Yeah. And I feel like whoever finishes it,
it's theirs.
Is responsible. Yeah, that's theirs.
Or even just like, my thing is, I don't want to take the time to get all the supplies.
There's that too.
Like, if I'm just, that's why I like things like Klutz. Those Klutz books, or like, even now, just buying like make this thing in a box.
Yeah.
You know, because you did give you what you need. You don't have to go to the store. You don't have to buy anything extra. It's great.
Paint by number. They have really sophisticated ones now. I was thinking of actually getting an adult paint by number.
Oh my gosh, I would love it.
And then painting it and framing it and telling people, yeah, I painted that. Because I did.
Because I did.
I physically painted it on the numbers.
That's the original half-finished craft. Is paint by numbers. Yes. I love coloring.
It's just sheer execution, no artistry at all. Can't be creative about everything.
Yeah.
That's all for this episode of Rude Tutors, a Fake Geek Girl production. If you like the show, please subscribe and rate us on iTunes. You can follow Nicole on Twitter at Nicole M. Keating and Liz at Laugh and Spin, all one word. You can also check out our other projects, including our brand new web series, Space Happens, on our YouTube channel, Fake Geek Girl Productions, and at our flagship website, thefakegeekgirl.com. Find out more information on supporting this podcast and getting in touch with us in the show notes.
Smellest thou anon?
You're such a dork.